End-time Bible prophecy is best understood as events told in advance that take place along a linear timeline, first by laying a solid foundation, then by filling in the details. We can see this clearly in the books of Daniel and Revelation. In Daniel, the foundation is laid in chapter 2. This is where the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar had a dream and saw a statue of different metals that was ultimately destroyed by a rock that grew into a mountain and covered the whole earth. He was told each metal represented different kingdoms, with his kingdom being the first, the head of gold. Then each of the remaining metals would represent following kingdoms, leading up to when the Most High God sets up his kingdom for his people. This is the foundation of all end-time prophecy. And for the rest of the book, it's Daniel's visions that retell the foundation, then fills in the details. That foundation is retold in chapter 7, where Daniel's first vision is recorded. But instead of seeing metals to represent the kingdoms that Nebuchadnezzar saw, he sees animals or beasts. And instead of a mountain covering the earth, he expands that by explaining it as final judgment in favor of the saints. So the entire course of prophetic history is retold, but the vision of Daniel 7 focuses more on the activities of a unique character called the little horn. Because it's this little horn that would be the persecutor of God's people throughout different times in history, first during the Middle Ages and again in the end times. This is why Daniel emphasizes judgment in favor of God's people. When Christ ascended to heaven and Satan no longer had access to him, Satan would continue his war against God by using this little horn system to persecute God's people. And it's the book of Revelation that expands on the activities of the little horn, particularly focusing on its end-time persecution after first laying its own foundation. That foundation can be laid in chapter 1. This is where we get the thesis statement for the entire book, which is that Yahushua HaMashiach, or Jesus Christ, is coming back to redeem God's people from this earth, and that Christ will remain with us in spirit until that time comes. The rest of the book fills in the details needed for deeper understanding, because the reason Christ emphasizes being with us until the end is that there would be difficult times ahead for his people, both leading up to and during the Middle Ages and again in the end times. And it's the same little horn of Daniel, known throughout the New Testament by the titles of Son of Perdition, the Man of Sin, and the Antichrist, that Satan would use to persecute the people of the Most High God. This persecution climaxes in Revelation 13, but the book brings us there by providing a foreshadowing of history first. This foreshadowing can be seen in the letters to the 7 churches. These letters were initially sent to the believers in Asia Minor along the postal route of the time, but they also serve as a prophetic timeline that highlights the experience of believers from the time of Christ's ascension to his return. These can be seen in chapters 2 and 3. And in chapter 4 of Revelation, we see those same who were redeemed from the earth now in heaven. See, the last condition of the church, or the church of Laodicea, was spiritually weak. But after seeing perhaps these same believers in heaven, the Apostle John, who wrote Revelation, weeps because he wanted to know how. The how, or the how that they got there, is told in the vision of the 7 seals. The first 6 seals summarize the experience of believers over the same time as that told in the vision of the 7 churches. But between the 6th and 7th seal, the story is told of how believers went from a church where Christ was outside knocking on the door to being in heaven at the throne of the Most High God. We see this awakening take place in Revelation 7 with the mention of the seal of the living God. This is an embracing of Bible truth that end-time believers would have in their foreheads, as this is where we communicate with the Most High. These end-time believers are known by the symbolic number of 144,000. They represent those who will abandon the religious errors of this world and become the group of people that will fulfill the purpose for which humanity was created. They will vindicate the character of the Most High God by proving He is righteous and just, and that His law can be obeyed by us just as it was obeyed by Christ. They will do this in the face of the most difficult time in human history, during the formation of a one-world religio-political government and the enforcement of the mark of the beast, which Revelation says is enforced worship. Because immediately following the enforcement of the mark of the beast is the 7 last plagues, which only affect those who received the mark of the beast. The symbolic 144,000 will be on the earth during this time, but will be fully protected until Christ returns. Then upon His return, Christ will destroy the unrighteous and take the 144,000, along with all those who had died in the faith and were resurrected at His return to heaven for 1,000 years. This will leave Satan alone on earth during that time with no one to deceive. Revelation refers to this as his prison. Instead, he will be judged for his sinfulness by the symbolic 144,000 and those who had previously died for their faith. After the 1,000 years, the city of heaven, the New Jerusalem, will descend from heaven and rest on earth. At this time, the unrighteous will be resurrected. When they are, Satan will attempt to deceive them into surrounding and attacking the New Jerusalem. But this is when they all, Satan, the Antichrist, the beast, and all who followed them, will face their final judgment and punishment, which is hellfire that burns until they are all consumed. And contrary to what many people believe, this hellfire is not burning now and will not burn forever. After the punishment for sin is complete, God will restore the earth to what it was before sin. It will be recreated for His people to enjoy for all eternity. Because when Christ said, "The meek shall inherit the earth," this is the earth He was speaking of, the one where it says, "The lion and the lamb will rest together." It's a world with no memory of our sinful past and where sin will never again exist. This is the world we should all aspire and desire to live in. But to get there, we must see and follow the path that has been clearly laid for us and surrender to the truth of the Most High God. We have also a more sure word of prophecy, whereunto ye do well that ye take heed, as unto a light that shines in a dark place until the day dawn and the day star arise in your hearts. If you'd like to get a deeper understanding of end-time prophecy as is explained by the Bible itself, shining a bright light into the dark future, download my free end-time prophecy chart and check out the other videos on this channel. Thank you for watching.